For those of you who are in Sweden or a surrounding country, I'm gonna need you to tell me if something terrible is actually happening there. We are actually here with the curious economists, and they're gonna go ahead and let us know as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in.
When you think of Sweden, what comes to mind?
Meatballs,
IKEA,
probably.
Meatballs, blonde
Yeah, of
hair,
course.
and a peaceful, prosperous society. What do you find instead? A nightmare of unprecedented chaos and violence. Stockholm now holds the grim title of Europe's most dangerous city for gang killings.
In
the
all of
average age
Europe?
of serious
Holy.
criminals in Sweden is among the youngest in Europe, with children as young as 14 committing heinous crimes. Suburban areas have transformed into no-go zones, where even emergency services can't operate without heavy protection.
Wow.
Remember when former US President Donald Trump warned about unrest in Sweden?
Sweden. Who would believe this? Sweden. They
That's
took in
crazy.
large numbers. They're having problems like they never thought possible.
He was ridiculed and mocked. But today, Swedish identity is under siege. Mass immigration is fracturing the culture, while quality of life plummets, with immigrants making up 20% of the population. In 20 to 25 years, the national Swedish population will be outnumbered. Here is why Sweden has had enough. What has gone so wrong in Sweden to lead to this crisis?
This is
In the early
remarkable.
20th century, Sweden was a poor agrarian society with a strong work ethic and a focus on individual responsibility and family values.
Well, I know they were good at, fishing and doing stuff with ports and whatnot. I know that, so.
In the 1960s, Sweden began to build its welfare state, with the rise of the folkhem concept, meaning people's home. This idyllic philosophy emphasized Sweden as a big family where everyone takes care of each other, which partly explains Sweden's welcoming attitude towards refugees. This approach was built on the belief that everyone, regardless of backgrounds, could contribute to and benefit from a harmonious, well-functioning society. Over the last few decades, Sweden has become a magnet for immigrants from all over the world. Today, 20% of its population consists of people born abroad, a significant figure for a nation of just 10.6 million.
That's kind of crazy. 20%? I mean, 2 out of 10 people are is an immigrant. That's kind of interesting. And I wonder how hard it is to gain citizenship there. I've never looked into it, but I'm curious to know, like the tests and whatever you need to do. That's something that I need to look into.
But why are they coming to Sweden? How is it that Syria, Iraq, and Turkey are the top 3 countries of origin for immigrants? Sweden's generous welfare benefits and open-door policy have made it an attractive destination for many seeking a better life. However, this influx has brought new challenges that Sweden was not prepared for. Sweden does not have immigration policies that can handle such high levels of immigration. Immigrants often end up residing in neighborhoods where the majority of inhabitants are also foreign-born. These areas suffer from high unemployment rates, with many residents struggling with the Swedish language. Even more concerning, many of these immigrants do not want to integrate. They don't want to learn the language. They want Sweden to cater to them. How did the people's home turn into a breeding ground for unrest? Stockholm, the country's capital, now has a gun crime rate 30 times higher than London. There were 260 incidents involving explosives, a 60% increase from 2022.
What are these people over here just making bombs and stuff or something? Like, come on.
Surge in
That's
gun
crazy.
violence is almost entirely linked to gangs predominantly composed of individuals with a migration background. These gangs engage in various criminal activities such as drug trafficking and fraud, and they have even penetrated political parties. The situation has escalated to the extent that explosions and shootings have become more frequent, leading to widespread fear among ordinary citizens. Criminal organizations in Sweden generate around $500 million per year from illicit activities. Sweden also has the highest incidence of sexual violence across Europe, while hate crimes against groups like LGBTQ increase. But are these crimes even related to immigration? In simple terms, yes. Most incidents of shootings and explosions involve organized crime gangs, with a large number of the perpetrators being immigrants or second-generation Swedes. 53% of prisoners in Sweden were born abroad, while almost 90% of suspects involved in shootings come from immigrant families. Take Malmö, for example. This city has become infamous for its high crime rates and gang violence. Explosions, shootings, and gang wars have become part of daily life. The once thriving city is now a hotspot for criminal activity, with
And I remember Malmo too, like one of the places like you should visit. That's sad that that's gone up basically in flames. Oh man.
police struggling to maintain order. Defying an old taboo, the Swedish government has called on the military to assist the police. It has even come to the point where the governor of the Bank of Sweden, Erik Thedin, says that the growing problem of shootings and bombings is so serious that it risks damaging the country's long-term economic growth. What are the economic and educational consequences of Sweden's immigration policies? The deterioration in physical security is causing Swedish nationals with entrepreneurial skills to leave the country, seeking safer and more stable environments in places like the United States, Canada, and other parts of Europe.
Maybe like they're going to Norway or something like that. Who knows?
It is also becoming increasingly difficult for industry to recruit high-level talent from abroad. These problems are amplified by a decline in the quality of education resulting from increasing ethnic disorder and outright violence in schools.
Hold on. I wonder if I were to decide to move over there now, would it be easier if I bring a skill or something because they're trying to get people in there since everybody else is leaving who does have skills? I wonder if somebody knows that answer.
OECD's Program for International Student Assessment Rankings, Sweden is trending down, a serious issue for a knowledge-based country. The main cause of this crisis is a combination of an open-door migration policy with no accompanying policy to help newcomers integrate.
I know here, like in America, some people, it takes for years and years just to even be able to gain citizenship to come over here and stay. You always have to have like a visa and whatnot. But I mean, some people just, obviously you look at the border with the election coming up right now, it's like a big deal. I'm not going to speak a lot on that. There's a lot of controversy with it all, but you all see it, what's going on. Yeah, and apparently it's the same thing happening all over Europe, especially in Sweden. I don't know why Sweden. There's other countries that have open door policies as well, but Sweden seems like the place to go.
Swedish performance in the Program for International Student Assessment (PISA) rankings published by the OECD has been steadily declining. In 2022, Sweden ranked 22, while Finland, the Netherlands, and even the Czech Republic ranked higher. Are public aid and subsidies allowing immigrants to exploit Sweden's welfare system?
Possibility.
Sweden's extensive public welfare system, complemented by generous social benefits and grants, is designed to help the deprived. Many immigrants, especially asylum seekers, receive sizable handouts from the government, discouraging them from finding jobs and integrating into Swedish society. One major example is the Child Benefit Program. This program, launched in 1982 to tackle falling birth rates, gives a monthly allowance of approximately $115 per child. A native Swedish family with one child gets about $115, while an immigrant family with 3 children gets around $345 per month, draining the country's resources. Additionally, immigrants are entitled to rent subsidies, public housing, and other forms of support, totaling up to $185 monthly. Immigrant women's employment rates are about 20 percentage points lower than those of native-born Swedish women. When someone is already receiving up to $550 per month, they have less motivation to work. Comparing employment rates among immigrants, Sweden prioritizes its native population, which can be seen as a positive approach to maintaining national stability. Unlike countries like the United States and New Zealand, where immigrant employment rates are higher than those of native populations, Sweden ensures that its own citizens are prioritized in the job market.
I don't even think that's kind of political. I think that's how it should be. I mean, if that's the home country, then that's kind of how it should be in a sense. I think that I love immigration, people coming over. You should do that. But I do think its own citizens or whatever country should be, prioritized first. If you are someone who has a different opinion of mine or, other people, go ahead and let me know down below. I always love hearing everybody's thoughts, even if it does different from mine. That is okay.
Yeah, and Canada show only slight favor towards their native populations. Sweden has a nearly 15 percentage point difference between the employability rates of native-born and foreign-born individuals. Are policy changes enough to address Sweden's immigration crisis?
I already know that's going to be a no. You don't need just policy, you need enforcement. Enforcement of the policy to actually make it work.
The Social Democrats-led Swedish government has introduced more stringent immigration laws in response to the growing crisis. New rules aim to reduce the number of immigrants entering Sweden and make it harder for those already in the country to access public assistance or gain permanent residency. In 2023, Sweden's net immigration declined by nearly 7%. Under the new law, an immigrant must reside in Sweden for at least 3 years before applying for permanent residence and must meet minimum earnings of approximately $2,650 per month, up from the previous $1,260.
Definitely made it
These measures
difficult.
are designed to ensure that immigrants contribute to the economy and integrate into society.
I think that does seem fair. They did, I mean, it did look like it more than doubled for the monthly rent, but you got to contribute to society. You can't just, I guess, someone be a deadbeat. That's not really fair. So,
following Denmark's successful approach, Sweden is increasing sentences for severe offenses, doubling penalties for gang members, and creating special prisons for young offenders. Enhanced electronic surveillance on gangs and zones where police can exercise blanket stop and search powers without suspicion of an offense are also being implemented. There are doubts
Okay.
about the effectiveness of these measures. Unlike Denmark, which addressed the issue early on, Sweden started much later, when integration problems had significantly worsened. Sweden has not fully adopted the Danish model, which includes dispersing immigrants throughout regions and expecting them to learn the local language and values, thus enabling better adaptation for immigrants' children.
So I wonder why the Danes decided to do that and do it early, but Sweden did not. I'm gonna have to look into that too. So, yeah, Denmark, you must be on it.
What does the public say? Swedish public discourse on immigration and integration is deeply divided. Accusations of racism are widespread, and the debate is influenced by external factors like Russian trolls, radical Islamic groups, and left-wing media. This division hampers political consensus on the way forward. The recent elections to the European Parliament marked a significant moment in Sweden's political landscape. The far-right Sweden Democrats experienced an electoral setback, garnering 13.2% of the vote, down 2.2% from previous elections. This made Sweden one of the few European countries where the far right is in retreat. The Social Democrats, on the other hand, captured nearly 1/4 of the votes, maintaining a significant influence. This shift in public focus could impact the broader debate on immigration and integration. Despite
almost
the
sounds like
recent
a setup.
losses, the Sweden Democrats still hold a considerable share among younger voters, particularly those aged 18 to 21, where their support jumped from 9% to 15%. This indicates a persistent undercurrent of support for stricter immigration policies among Sweden's youth. The upcoming general election in September 2024 will be a critical moment for Sweden. The government hopes to show progress in addressing the crisis, but the opposition has gained ground by criticizing the current administration's handling of the situation. The Social Democrats, who were in power when many of these issues escalated, face the challenge of appearing tough on crime and immigration while distancing themselves from past policies that contributed to the crisis. Do you believe that its current policies and social structures can evolve to maintain both its cultural identity and social harmony? Or is the nation on a path to irreversible transformation?
We don't know. Those were very good questions and actually true. It does seem like there might be a problem there in Sweden. If you are there and you are experiencing it, go ahead and let me know. I can tell you that we are experiencing some stuff here in America. We always have. It's been better at certain times, if you know what I mean. But I mean, no, it just seems like all over the world, no matter where you are, it seems like this voting, you got to get out there and go ahead and put your vote in.